Our featured speaker started out on everybody's favorite television show as everybody's favorite character. And from there, she became an infomercial superstar selling the product that everybody needed and everybody bought. And then from there, she became a prolific best-selling author with bestseller after bestseller after bestseller on topic after topic after topic. And then she achieved the pinnacle of celebrity when she appeared on Dancing with the Stars. Most of America's favorite television show. Her new book, Toxic, From Toxic to Not Sick. Many of you have it. Who's happy they have it? Yeah. Please welcome to the stage the one and only Suzanne Summers. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. What a nice introduction.
Wow.
Wow.
Suzanne Summers.
Thank you.
Wow.
Overwhelmed me. I was just looking at the Dancing with the Stars, and that's the point in my career I got stupid again. There were nights out there on that floor. I think, why did I do this?
Would you bring me the box on the side of the podium? All right. I have something for you to begin with.
You didn't have to bring me anything. I'm just so happy to be here.
Oh,
thank you.
you.
And really. Nice faces.
Well, to begin this, I want to recognize you, because, you know, the topic of all of this is celebrity. And I want to recognize your work over the course of a distinguished career.
Thank you.
With the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Celebrity Entrepreneurs Guild.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I finally won something.
You're the first recipient of this award.
I'm really honored. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I always get close and then I don't win.
Oh,
so
you got it. Oh, you got it. We can put it right here.
Okay, well, I might want to like wear it as a pin or something. Isn't that nice?
Now, I've been teaching that progression that I taught, that I showed there. I've been teaching that in my Celebrity Launchpad classes for years.
Really? Really?
Yeah, you are what I believe every entrepreneur wants to be, the celebrity entrepreneur. And I'd like to ask you some questions about celebrity and how it's impacted you. And I'd like to start off with one that has to do with George Clooney. So,
who just sold his company for $1
billion
with a B for tequila, which, by the way, my drink of recommendation, because there's little to no sugar and you can drink a couple and not get fat. I hear if you drink too much, though, you'll never forget it.
Okay. So, you know, George Clooney labored for years as an actor in Hollywood, and he knew. I mean, I had conversations with his manager. He knew he was going to be George Clooney. Way before Hollywood knew that he was going to be George Clooney. Did you know you were going to be Suzanne Summers, the celebrity superstar, before it happened and before Hollywood knew it?
Yes and no. You never know what life events are life-changing and life-altering. And when I was 16, I got the lead in the high school play, Guys and Dolls. I was Adelaide, of course. And Walter Winchell, do you remember Walter Winchell? Heard about the performance and came to my high school with his, that outfit he would wear, the trench coat and the hat. And he walks up on stage, he comes right to me and he goes, "You're going, no G, you're going someplace, sister."
Wow.
And I remember the next day I was in the newspaper, it was like such a big deal. But then I got pregnant at 17 because I was a good Catholic girl. First time I ever had sex, if that was sex, I don't remember.
I think it was.
I think the song "Is That All There Is" was written about that night. So I did the right thing, and I had a scholarship to college, and I had to leave, and I was young in college, on my way to college, and so I thought it was all over. And then, you know, I was in Sausalito, California, a single teenage mother. I used to get the trades because I didn't know how to make a living at that time. I learned to type, and I learned to take shorthand. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's something your mothers used to make you take. And I was really good at shorthand, but I couldn't read it back. So that's kind of a problem with shorthand. And I got a job with this nerdy-looking lawyer, and the first day he calls me in to take dictation, and I wrote it all down really fast. I was nervous, and I didn't want him to know that, you know, he's going a little too fast for me. And when I got back to my desk, I looked at it, it just looked like Chinese, and I thought, he's going to fire me, so before he does it, I think I'll leave. And I quit or fired myself. And that began a series of firings that all worked in my favor. This big answer to your one question, I know. And so then I'm trying to figure out how to make a living. I've got a child. I've got no child support. I don't have a family that has any money, and they're all alcoholics. I've written books about alcoholism, being a child of an alcoholic, and all that. And I read in the trades that they're looking for this girl for a guest starring part on a show called The Dom DeLuise Show. If you remember Dom DeLuise, he was great. And it was me, small town girl who has no idea who she is or what she looks like. And I got together the $25 to fly PSA to Los Angeles from San Francisco. And I was in love with the man I'm now married to. And any excuse to see him. So I told him I have an audition at NBC at 2 o'clock. I didn't know the protocol. I didn't know that you need an agent who makes an appointment for you. I just knew that the audition was at 2 o'clock. And so we get to NBC, and Alan doesn't say, how'd you set this up? He just figures I have an audition. We don't know each other very well at that point. And we get to the guard at NBC. Why are you here? I'm auditioning for the Dom DeLuise Show, so they send me right in. You know, when you don't know anything, you don't know anything. I didn't know the rules, and so I walk in, and all the girls in there look like me. And I watch what they do. They sign in, and this receptionist gave a script, and so I signed in, and I took the script, and I read it. And I go and I read for this producer, Sam Denoff, who later I realized was just like one of the top television comedy writers and producers. And when I finished, he says, very nice. And I'm thinking, I know, because it's me. I'm a small town girl. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I look like. And he said, I'm going to give you a call back. I said, well, thank you. So I go out to the receptionist, and I said, I have a call back. She said, well, good for you. I said, what is that? And she said, they're going to call you back. So I said, when? She goes, well, I don't know. She said, today. I said, oh, well, where do I go? Now I'm her problem. I'm irritating her. She goes, I don't know. Why don't you go sit in the commissary? A direction that changed my life, literally. So I go and I sit in the commissary by myself, and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and no one's there. And in walks Johnny Carson. And he comes right over to me, because I'm the only one there.
Yeah, that's why.
But I don't know who I am, and I don't know what I look like. I'm a small town girl. And he said, hey, little lady, what are you doing here? And I said, I have a callback, because now I have lingo, right? For the Dom DeLuise Show. And he goes, oh, he's a nice guy. I hope you get it. And I didn't have a resume either, but I had written a book of poetry. My first book was in 1973. It was a book of poetry about feelings and emotions. I'd always written, always, always, always. When I was a child of an alcoholic, when I'd be sad, I would write. And when we'd hide in the closet, I would write. And so I only had one credit, too. I was the mysterious blonde in the Thunderbird in American Graffiti. So that was the only thing on the back. So I didn't know what to do. You know, Johnny Carson, so I handed him my little book of poetry. That was Wednesday. Friday night, I made my debut on The Tonight Show, my first national interview.
Wow.
So I just got 2 more things to finish that story. So I didn't have a dress, so I wrote a bad check, things I did stupid back then. And I'm standing behind that famous curtain, hoping I won't be the first person to throw up on national television. But I'm thinking, oh my God, they must love my poetry. And I hear Johnny Carson say, We've all been wondering who the mysterious blonde in the Thunderbird is. And I'm thinking, you were? Because I hadn't even seen it. I couldn't afford to go to it. And he said, well, we found her. And the curtain opened, and I loved him, and he loved me, and he started having me on every month. And my little first book of poetry, Touch Me, was the #1 best-selling book of poetry in America, along with Rod McEwen that year.
Great segue, because no, really, great segue, because one of my clients starred in a movie with Elvis Presley, and Elvis told her, honey, every time I go on stage, I get them butterflies in my stomach. He gets stage fright. Then she was on the Johnny Carson show, on the Tonight Show, and he told her that he focuses on the joy that he's going to bring with his comedy to the audience to overcome his stage fright. Do you ever get stage fright? Do you ever have performance anxiety?
Not anymore. In a room like this, I don't think I'm nervous. I think I'm overwhelmed at being here and this warm response, and I can see all your faces in a nightclub. I know you're there, but I can't see you. But this is a friendly audience, so I feel nervous energy, but it's positive. It's not fear. I don't really feel fear anymore. That's one of the nice things about aging. There's so many nice things about aging.
Did you, when you were starting out, feel a lot of stage fright?
I did, but when the way I got Three's Company was on one of those many appearances on The Tonight Show. Fred Silverman, who was the president of ABC at that time, evidently was watching once or maybe a bunch of times, I don't know. And they were looking for, they had 2 other Chrissy Snows on Three's Company in the pilots. It didn't work. And they got the green light on the first mid-season series. And so Fred Silverman said, I got the girl. I see her on The Tonight Show all the time. And so look at, you know, the seeing it in the trades, spending the $25, getting myself in, because it was so dumb, I didn't know that's not how you get in. I got that part on Dom DeLuise, too, and The Tonight Show, which led to Three's Company. And when that started, I naively and stupidly, on the first day, said, I don't know what I'm doing. All I've ever really done is Adelaide and Guys and Dolls in high school, but it got me a scholarship. And I think that wasn't the right thing to say. Because by the time you're on what was going to be a major hit television series on a network, when there are only 3 networks, it's not school, right?
Right.
So there was a guy by the name of Mickey Ross, and the producers were Nichols, Ross, and West. And Mickey Ross was an old vaudevillian, and he took me under his wing. And I don't know if you remember the Olympics with Nadia Comaneci and her coach, where she'd do the thing, and then she'd look over at him, and he'd either go like this or he'd go like that. And that's how I work with Mickey. I'd go out there, and then we'd huddle and we'd talk. And he really taught me to hear the beats of comedy. And I learned it so fast, because I'm Irish, and Irish, not that we own humor, but we've got a little bit of humor. And, but I do recall when, so the answer, the question is, do I get nervous?
Did you?
I did.
And how'd you deal
because
with
I
it?
wanted to, you can't be great the first time out, you know, and so the fear of, will they do the same thing to me that they did to the other 2 girls who were originally Chrissy's, because the way they fired those 2 girls, the last one, I think her name was Susan. Susan, could you come here and bring your coat and purse? So whenever they'd come to see me, I'd think, do you want me to bring my coat and purse?
So any tips on how to deal with stage fright?
You know, you don't have stage fright when you know what you're doing, and when you, but it takes a long time. I didn't have any prep, so I was just thrown into it. But I don't think there are any accidents. I think we are where we are because we're supposed to be there, and there was something driving me. I didn't want to type. I hated shorthand. I hated it, and I didn't want to work in an office, and I wanted more. I lived in a little town. I wanted a different life. I wanted the life I have. So I wonder if I ever saw it. I did see something as a kid. And because my father was I've written 3 books about him. He was a violent alcoholic. My brother rigged a lock on the inside of an upstairs closet. so that we could hide there at night. And in those times, I would go off in a place because it was so frightening. And I always saw that I was on a big stage, and I guess I was the star. And I'd always see my mother, who had this beautiful white hair. She didn't color it, it was just beautiful white hair. And finally, she was happy and proud. And the first time I ever walked out as a headliner in Las Vegas, guess who was sitting right there? Was my mother with her white hair. It was all I could see, like this light, like this angel sitting in the audience. So there are no accidents. We get ourselves, it's all about the choices we make, good and bad. You learn from the good. The best things about me are the bad choices I've made, because I have chosen to learn from them. And I was invited to speak at a Entrepreneur of the Year Awards for Ernst & Young a couple of years ago. And we live in Palm Springs and in Malibu. See, I have the life I want, see? And my husband kept saying, what are you going to speak about tomorrow? I said, I don't know, I can't quite grab it. I'll get it, can't grab it. We have this little cart that takes us down the hill. And if anybody wants to buy a house in Palm Springs, Google it. Been there 40 years, I'm ready. And anyway, it's this little wonderful magical cart that goes down. So we're going down the cart on the way to the gig, which was in Palm Desert, which is why he liked it. We didn't have to travel anywhere, and the pay was good. And do you have your speech yet? No, I don't. Well, you better. I mean, you're supposed to speak for an hour. I said, I know. So we get to the theater door, and the stage manager meets me, and he walks me around the back. And on stage is Mr. Ernst or Mr. Young, or whoever, his representative was. And I'm hearing him introduce me like I just heard you do this nice introduction. And he said, and she's an entrepreneur. And I'm thinking, because I don't have a speech yet. Right, I am. I'm an entrepreneur. What do I sell? What is it that I sell? It's not the skincare and all that. What is it that I sell? And it came to me, I sell my problems. I've had a lot of problems. And so haven't we all? I mean, we've all had a lot of problems. And somehow along the way, I learned to use my problems as rocket fuel and not let them get me down. I remember talking to Carol Burnett's husband during the height of Three's Company. And when you tell the cast and crew on day one, I don't know what I'm doing, and then you rise to the top, and I got all the, the accolades and the magazine covers and everything, because we were going after it, there's a lot of resentment that you have to put up with. And I remember Joe Hamilton, who was Carol Burnett's husband, said, don't let the bastards get you down. And I remember thinking that. And I also remember my therapist in my early 20s said to me when she finally said, I don't want you to come anymore. And I said, why? I've been good. I've been paying. She charged me according to my ability to pay. I paid $1 a visit. And, and I said, I've been paying. I've been coming. She said, I know. You're ready. You're ready. Go live your life. And I almost cried because she was reparenting me. Most valuable thing, really, that ever happened. And I got to the door, and I hear her behind me say, Suzanne. And I turned around. She goes, remember this. The worst is over. And my whole life, no matter what happens, I hear that in my head. The worst is over. I'll never be back in that closet again. And even if I were in some closet somewhere, I would have better survival skills than I did when I was a girl. So I believe all of that has been my asset, because all of that goes into the work that I do, whether it's a book I write or a character of Chrissy Snow. I didn't want to just play a dumb blonde. Dumb blondes are irritating. And I thought about her a lot, like, how do I create a character that everybody doesn't hate?
There's one right there.
yeah, I'm sure she's really dumb, right?
No, one of your haters.
Oh, one of my haters.
Oh, the other Deb? Oh, okay. Oh,
Thank
okay.
you. I have a thick skin. And I gave her a moral code, this character that I did, and I poured into her people that I loved. Like my mother is part Chrissy Snow. My mother was so sweet, but her life was tormented. But she would say things like, she literally said to me one day, what time is midnight mass? Mother! So I was able to incorporate that into that character, so that's where the came from.
How about costume? Have Lady Gaga and many celebrities use costume very powerfully. Have you ever really paid a lot of attention to your costume and how that could help you?
Totally. Chrissy Snow, short shorts, they call them now booty shorts, tight little t-shirts, the 2 ponytails, the knee socks, the wedge, that was a costume. And often in the audience, the little girls would come dressed like that. And you know, ego always gets in the way of the best deals and ideas and everything. I didn't own Chrissy Snow. How could I? Well, I came in, I don't know anything, right? So when the show was #1 and we were just riding high and I was riding high, I go to the producers one day and I go, you know, Chrissy Snow is a brand bonanza and we should market her clothes and we should do Saturday morning animated cartoons. Who could be a better animated Saturday morning cartoon with the pink cheeks and the 2, you know, ponytails? And she should be a movie star, The Adventures of Chrissy Snow. All these girls, and they said, just think about the show. They wouldn't have anything to do with it. And I've always thought they really missed the boat on that because that would be the first person who ever did all the branding. And we could have turned Chrissy Snow into George Clooney's deal would look like a pauper, you know. And the way I came up with the hairdo, when I was trying to figure out how do you make a dumb blonde likable, I'm sitting at this outdoor cafe on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. And this woman walks by, and she's got 2 Afghan dogs. So my hair was fashioned after 2 dogs.
Now, some of our greatest leaders in the world have been great speakers, like Ronald Reagan or Abraham Lincoln. You do a lot of speaking. How has speaking impacted your career as an entrepreneur?
Well, it's interesting when my stories get long, and I'm sorry. At the height of my career, I'm going to answer your question, but I have to give you just a little background. At the height of Three's Company, when it's the #1 show in the country, and when my character, me, Suzanne Summers, had the highest demographics of any woman in television at that time, my contract was up. And all the men on TV were making 10 and 15 times more than I was. Now, at the time when I made my original deal, remember, I don't know anything, I don't know what I'm doing, so I signed anything. But now that the story has changed, and, you know, it's not feminism, really. It was, I felt, someone should be paid commensurate with the amount of tickets that they sell. I was selling the most tickets in television. Carol O'Connor was selling the most male tickets. I was selling the most female tickets. So we went in, my husband went in on my behalf, and the morning of the negotiation, there were no cell phones at the time, and isn't that amazing? There were no cell phones. That's like when you hear your grandparents say they didn't know how to drive. Really? And so my husband, uncharacteristically, when he was leaving the house in the morning, turned back and looked at me and he said, you know, this could all blow out of the water. I was just asking commensurate with what the highest paid men were being paid. And I said, they're not going to get rid of Chrissy Snow. You'll say you want this. We'll say we want that. We'll meet somewhere in the middle. It'll be great. So I'm waiting home. It was a long 3 hours. And I lived in a multi-level house on the beach. There's a way that the front door opens when it's good news. And there's a way it opens when it's bad news. Oh. I hear the door open and close. And then I hear him plodding up the stairs. And I meet him at the landing. And he looks at me, he goes, you're out. I said, I'm out. Out? I never expected that. I'm out. He said, yeah. He said, when I walked in, they were already going to fire you. He said, you're being used as a patsy so that no other woman in television will have the audacity to ask for parody. And so in order to not get sued, I had to finish out the season. But they reduced my part to 1 minute at the end of the show, where I would come on Fridays, and they'd have a security guard meet me at the back, like I'm what am I going to do, right? and walked me in. I had to do my own hair and makeup. They created a little awful set in the back with a wing chair, a pole lamp, like those lamps like Archie used to have, and a phone. And here's what I did every Friday. I know, I miss you too. No, she's still sick. Yeah, okay, bye. That was what I did. And that's how I finished out the season. It was just like wasn't enough to fire me, they wanted to humiliate me. So I sat, I'm going to get to answer your question. I sat.
You're doing good.
Okay. I sat in my house for close to a year, questioning myself why. I had it all. I had everything. Past my wildest imaginings, I had everything. Why did I do this? What? And I was questioning. And then I hear a voice in my head, you know the voices we hear that we rarely listen to. The voice said, why are you focused on what you don't have? Why don't you focus on what you do have? And I thought, what do I have? Then the voice starts talking to me. The voice says, you have enormous visibility. Everybody in this country knows your name. And so it was an epiphany for me. That's true. That's true. Everybody's saying all this negative stuff about me, but they're talking about me. They're not talking about Joyce DeWitt, they're talking about me. So I went to my husband, Alan, and I said, I'd like you to make a deal for me in Las Vegas. He goes, can you sing? I had the lead in Guys and Dolls. No, but really, in the years that I was on Three's Company, I worked with Sammy Davis. I worked with Red Skelton. Remember Red Skelton? Yeah. Red Skelton! Who are all those people? I worked with Sinatra. I worked with some amazing.
You worked with Sinatra?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you in a minute how I worked with him. But the other people, no.
Okay.
Once would have been nice. My husband goes to Vegas, and he goes to each hotel on the Strip. I want a 2-year deal. No one's making a 2-year deal. We'll give her 2 weeks. No, I don't want 2 weeks. He finally goes to the MGM Grand's, Bernie Rothkopf, probably a mafia guy. And he has a long office. His desk is down at the back of the room, and so you open the door and then you walk, which feels like a mile to his desk. But Alan said, as soon as I saw him, you remind me of all my uncles. So Bernie doesn't even look like, what do you want? And he said, I want a 2-year deal for Suzanne Summers, and I don't care what the money is. And he looks up and he goes, nobody gets a 2-year deal. Why do you want a 2-year deal? He said, I know her, that if she doesn't succeed immediately, she will. And somehow in that conversation, I got a 2-year deal at the MGM Grand Hotel, and at better money than I was asking for on Three's Company, frankly, right?
All right.
Right. And then 2 years later, I'm walking on the stage with Frank Sinatra. He was Las Vegas Male Entertainer of the Year, and I was Las Vegas Female Entertainer of the Year.
Yeah.
Out of a negative, a problem, turned into a great asset. So that's when I started realizing no matter what happens, no matter what fist gets thrown at you through life, if you change your perspective and ask yourself, how can I make this work for me? Like judo, you know, using forward energy to win, so that I'm not a victim. I didn't want to be a victim ever. And it's, that's what's taken, answer to your question, all the fear away. Whatever happens, even the time Dick Clark presented me and I fell down the stairs, it actually worked for me, because I got more attention than the people who walked down the stairs right.
The Beatles would play famous songs. Like I showed a video earlier this weekend of the Beatles playing My Bonnie. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. Did you ever rehearse or practice or work with other people's famous material? Like, did you ever rehearse Shakespeare lines to improve your facility as an actor or a speaker? Did you ever work with really famous material just for rehearsing purposes?
No, there are a couple of female singers that I love. I love Nancy Wilson. I love Sarah Vaughan. I love Peggy Lee. And so they sing in my key, so I would sing to them. And recently in my act, Leon Russell has written this most incredible song. And when I opened last year in Vegas, I called Leon. I said, I want you to come because I so admire your work as a songwriter, as a lyricist and songwriter. And he said, oh, I couldn't take that much attention. I said, I want to introduce you. So I said, well, one day, when you're in Vegas, come in the back door, and I want you to hear me sing this. The song is A Song for You. And Helen Reddy did that song. But the words are so beautiful. How does it go? I've been so many places in my life and time.
Yeah.
I'm a little high. And I've sung a lot of songs. I've made some bad rhyme. I've got to go lower. I've acted out my life on stages. 10,000 people watching. But we're alone, and I am singing this song for you. It goes in. So with a song, I had to sing that song for 2 weeks, rehearsing it before I could sing it without crying. There's a line in there, I love you in a place where there's no space or time. I've loved you all my life, you are a friend of mine. And when my life is over, remember when we were together. We were alone, and I was singing this song for you, so I can hardly not cry saying the words even. So you find...
Has that helped you in your own writing?
Yeah,
Singing
well...
great songs like that?
Singing great songs, yeah, probably. I hadn't thought about that. Really what helped me to become a writer, I've just finished my 25th or 26th book. I was hiding in the closet. That was a problem that became a positive. Having cancer became a positive. Turning down chemotherapy became a positive. And I remember when I turned it down, the doctor said, you're going to die. I said, honestly, I really feel I will die if I do what you tell me to do. He said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to change the way I eat. I'm only going to eat organic food. I'm going to value sleep. I'm going to only think good, positive thoughts. And I'm going to live my life like an athlete. And that's what I've been cancer-free for 20 years, and I had a large tumor. But so out of that came that incredible book. It's Knockout, Doctors Who Are Curing Cancer Without Drugs, which has been the #1 book in China for over a year. Really? Although they don't pay you in China. Anybody who does business in China, you know that. But I'm happy to have one of the doctors in the book, Dr. Nick Gonzalez, said to me, what's going on with the Chinese? I said, what do you mean? He said, I got so many Chinese patients. I said, yeah, the book is over there. So the wealthy Chinese come over here to take advantage of our incredible
healthcare.
Yeah, and they're very, very, very interested in alternative medicine. And I was invited over there last year to Shanghai to speak to a group of wealthy women from Shanghai, and they canceled about a month before because she said, you're going to come over here and talk about bioidentical hormones and all these alternative treatments, and we don't have it. It's not available. You can't get it. So, they'll catch up.
So, you talk about your husband a lot. The next question is about your marriage. I know Robert Downey Jr. from high school.
You do?
Actually, junior high school. I went to 8th grade with him. And my wife employed his wife, Susan Levine, who's now Susan Downey.
Wasn't she the original? No.
She was Allie's D girl.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And it's since Robert got together with her that his career has really blown up.
Yeah.
Talk about the impact of having the right spouse.
That I would meet him is, I just wrote a book about us called Two's Company. Comes out in November. Thank you. Who needs three? Another one of these crazy things. I'm living in Sausalito. I'm doing extra work. I'm doing anything. I was making children's clothes because I knew how to sew really well. But at that time, these clothes you know, my time and materials and everything, I'd have to sell them for $150. And so I never sold one, but they were beautiful and they'd hang in windows. Wouldn't they be worth a fortune today? Yeah. And I made chocolate desserts for restaurants. And I mean, just whatever I could do to try to make some money. I get a call there's a game show called The Anniversary Game. And it's one day's work, but if you do well, it could work into the regular gig. You're going to be the girl that does this and opens the refrigerator door, and it didn't seem so hard. And but I had a problem. I didn't have money to get across the Golden Gate Bridge. It was 50 cents. Really, it seems funny now, but you forget when you have no money. I mean, no money, you have no money. No money. No money. So, as was my sickness at the time that my therapist said I'm unrealistic, I decided I'm going to go. I get to the toll taker, and he says, that's 50 cents. I went, oh, gosh, I forgot my wallet. I am an actress. And he said, well, you have to leave something as collateral. I said, a lipstick? And he said, that'll do. And I note to self, okay, I can get across the bridge with lipstick now. Somewhere there, they got a box of my lipsticks, because it became a habit. I just tried to find different toll taker. I did it with him already. I better go over here. So I get to the ABC in San Francisco, KGO TV, and I walk in, and you know in the comic books where it goes doing? There he was, and I don't know what that was. And he was wearing a red alpaca sweater and slightly bell-bottom jeans, and I had never seen anything like that in my little hometown of San Bruno, California. None of the men looked like that. And he was clearly like Johnny Carson. The men loved him, the women loved him. He had that kind of thing that only Carson was so great, and that was what I saw in my husband. And I kind of stood to the side because I didn't want to go over to his energy field. It was just like overwhelming to me. And then he looks at me, and then he starts coming towards me, and I almost backed up. And he gets right in front of me, and he says, can you get me a cup of coffee? Okay. All right. So I go out. Where's the coffee? Oh, it's upstairs in the, you have to go to a vending machine. I get up there. It's 50 cents. So I dig through my purse, and I'm looking through the lining, and I actually found 50 cents in my purse. So I put it in, I come down, and he's already got coffee. And he wasn't being mean. He says, he goes, what a stupid come online. I said, years later, that was as stupid as come online. But this love affair began. And really, I had never been in love. I married my one-time only sex partner boyfriend, who I was about to break up with because he didn't like the attention Guys and Dolls took away from me. That was never going to work. And I'd never had anything like that. That's why I wrote about it. I'd never had sex like that. I'd never had that can't get enough of you kind of thing. And my therapist said it's going to take 10 years for him to marry you because he's just getting out of a marriage, and just from what you say. And I waited 10 years, but we were in love those whole 10 years, but 10 years later we got married. And it was the day of the firing. See, the day of the firing is very pivotal for me because he took me by the shoulders when he came up in the landing, when he said, you're out. He said, we're going to make this work for us. And when the discussions we had during that year was, let's never work for anyone ever again. We will own the business. So that's what he did. He was the Johnny Carson of Canada, and he ultimately gave up his show when Three's Company got so hot. He gave up his show to manage my career and our business and turn it into a brand. And we were already starting to brand Suzanne Summers because we couldn't brand Chrissy Snow. And he's a visionary. I see more what's in front of me. He sees way, way down the road, way down the road. Like the first night I opened in Vegas, I had 25 musicians, 8 or 10 dancers, 8 or 10 costume change. You know, if I didn't know what I was doing, just wow them with a bunch of stuff. And when I walk off stage, he said, I see a day when you'll just speak. And he had seen that, and I speak all the time now, and I love it. I really love it. I make him book me, you know, theaters and things like that, so I can do that because I love it so much. But we are a true partnership. Never has it been so good for a woman in our business, ever, because he's got my back. He was so famous in Canada, and 10 years older than me, so he absolutely understands how the business works. He can smell when there's BS. He can, I mean, he's always coming up with ideas. Most of them work, a lot of them don't. But that's the life of an entrepreneur, you know. Sometimes they go, there's the thigh master, 10 million thigh masters, then there's the butt master. What we didn't count on was nobody wants to walk out of Walmart with a big box that says butt master.
How about celebrity attachment?
What does that mean?
What does that mean? That means hanging out with other celebrities, getting photos with other celebrities. Is that a game that you play and that you're aware that other celebrities play?
I don't play that game. I like who I like. 35 years ago, I walked into a recording studio, and Barry Manilow was sitting there. And he looked at me, and he said, "Oh, you're the other one they make fun of." And I said, "I know, it's always you and me," and we forged a friendship. That's been a very important friendship for me over the years because he understands what I understand. His stratosphere is so big that it actually makes him afraid of the public. For me, I love people and I love the public, so I help him with that. And then I'll get musical notes from him. And I like to cook for him because he doesn't eat. You can't be that skinny and eat. But he likes my food. And our conversations over the years have been about the human condition. My original books were the poetry and Keeping Secrets and Wednesday's Children. Those books in the beginning were all about the human condition, which really comes down to the two big questions in life: who am I and what do I want? And most people go to their grave never being able to answer who am I and what do I want. But I find as I get older now that I hate to say I have what I want, but I have what I want. I just want more of it, and I want it to last for a long time. And my latest books have all been about a new way to age. In fact, the book next year that will come out, Two's Company comes out in November, then next year a book called A New Way to Age comes out, turning what could be a problem, being 70, into an asset, you know, of if you understand what the problems are, in the environment. We're under the greatest environmental assault in the history of humanity right now, and mold problems and chemical problems and the initials. I don't know how many of you have children or grandchildren, but you've heard of ADD and ADHD and OCD and people getting bit by Lyme, and doctors are stymied because this is not what med school was about. So there's just another way to do it. It's not the only way, but what I present in my books is another option. How do you age and keep your juice, and keep your brain, and keep your bones? And that's when I started writing about bioidentical hormones, which biologically identical to the human hormone, an exact replica of what we make or made in our own bodies. And I'm liking the way I'm aging. And I believe it's because I'm perfectly hormonally balanced and I'm fun to live with, because I coined in the first book the 7 dwarves of menopause: itchy, bitchy, sleepy, sweaty, bloated, forgetful, and all dried up. And all the dwarves have left. And my husband's been on hormones for 20 years, because I went on first. I found this. I mean, I really, for 3 years, I'm an upbeat, happy person. The worst is over, right? So I look at every day as the glass half full, and aren't we lucky? And, you know, when you have gratitude in your life, it leaves little room for anything else. But for those 3 years, when the dwarves moved in, when you can't sleep, right? Any woman going through this, when you can't sleep, night after night after night, there's anxiety with going to sleep because you get into bed so exhausted. Oh, I hope I sleep tonight. I went from doctor to doctor to doctor, and I didn't want to go synthetic or pharmaceutical. Not that it's wrong, it's just that's not what I wanted to do. And I heard of this endocrinologist in Santa Barbara who was doing something called bioidentical hormones. So I had my lab work done. I drove up there like a maniac on my appointed day, and I get to her office, and she looks, she goes, "Oh, poor thing." I went, "What?" She said, "You must be miserable." I said, "I am." I said, "Honestly, I'm a happy person, but I feel like the world would be better off without me." That's where you go in your head. You know, young girls get something called PMS, and it's hard to understand. As we get older, we get it too, but it never goes away. PMS is once a month. And the Seven Dwarfs is just there. They're there all the time. So she said, "I'm going to start you on bioidentical hormones. I can't give you everything you need." I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, because it took a long time to lose them. It's going to take a while to build up gradually." "Why can't you give me everything?" She said, "You'll literally go crazy. I mean, you can't fool around with these things." So she started dosing me up, and within 2 weeks, I felt better. By the end of the year, I was back, and I've never looked back. And that's when I started writing the books. And we did a lecture tour across Canada last year. The first audience in Toronto, 9,000 women came. And I think that's because women are starving for clarity, because we don't want to be all pilled up. We want to keep our juice. We want to feel good. We want to have our stuff with our husband. We want to, once the kids are gone, it should be great, and it is. But if you're just feeling worn out, it's not so great. So you can have a long, extended life. You can, when your hormones are right, you don't gain the weight that you do without them. Your cortisol levels go down, and your stress goes down, your insulin goes down, your thyroid normalizes, your adrenals. Everything kind of normalizes. But it's like a teeter-totter. It's sort of interesting. We have minor hormones and major hormones. And let's say on the minor side is estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, pregnenolone. Over here are the majors: thyroid, adrenal, cortisol, and insulin. When the minors drop, the majors rise. And when the majors rise, when your cortisol is high, that's your stress hormone, you can't sleep. You cannot sleep. And so that's what women first start complaining about. They can't sleep. If you can't sleep, your cortisol never goes down, and so therefore your insulin doesn't go down, so then you gain weight while you're sleeping. So I just found this science so fascinating, and so did the women. And it's been the greatest honor and privilege of my career to be a champion of women. And who would have thought? Chrissy Snow.
We heard it here this weekend. Two last questions. You have a lot of stories you could tell, but you've told us stories about Johnny Carson, about Dom DeLuise, about Frank Sinatra. Donald Trump uses status language, using names like that, and this is not a political conversation. It's about choosing status words or status stories. How much do you think about that?
Oh, you have to carefully craft what you put out, but tell the truth. But you know, I have a box that I live in, so I'm not going to say the P word and the F word and those things. I live within this box. It's about being polite and not rude. You can be funny and get your point across. So that's the box that I live in. Does that answer your question and not get political?
Sure. And the last question is, what is your number one real piece of advice to a person who aspires to become a celebrity in the eyes of their customers and prospects? What's the one thing that they can do, in your eyes?
Don't try to be a celebrity. You'll fail. You have to do what you do because you love it, because you love the craft, you love the work. And you have to know that success, if success was easy, everybody'd be successful. You're a group of successful people here, you all know that. I call myself a shmoo. Do you know what a shmoo is?
What's a shmoo?
My brother Danny got a shmoo for Christmas one year. It's a life-size punching bag, like a clown. It's got a clown face on it. You punch it, it bounces back. You punch it, it bounces back. It doesn't matter how many times you punch that thing, it always bounces up. And so that's always been my approach of, just got knocked down again. Okay, we'll move over here. That one hurt, whoa. And thicken up your skin. And if you can take the heat, and if you never, ever, ever give up, And if you understand that it's not the problems in your life that define you, but it's how you respond to the problems in your life that define who you are as a person, and then you do what you love, you have a real good shot at becoming anything you want.
Very good. All right, well, everybody's excited. Thank you very much.